members, starting with response to questions taken as notice. No? For our first question, I'll call on the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. All Islanders are having to review their household budgets in light of PEI's record inflation and, of course, more recently, the sharp rise in gas and oil prices. And I, like many others in this House, I'm sure, have received many emails and phone calls and other messages saying how hard it is to make ends meet, and that in every household, every dollar is being spent with great care and attention. Government spending, and although of course it's different in many respects from household budgeting, demands that same level of attention, and our budget deliberations, which have been going on in this House now for almost 4 weeks, are one way that the opposition can insist that Islanders' taxpayers' dollars are treated with appropriate care. Another mechanism is the procurement process. A question to the Minister of Finance. How does our province's current procurement process ensure that all goods and services we procure are providing maximum value?
The Honourable Minister of Finance, Deputy Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Honourable Member, for the question. We can ensure that through every department, because procurement is done through each department and then comes to finance. We work constantly to ensure that we are getting best value for the money, and we'll continue to do that.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Well, you know, of course, we have various agreements and laws in place to ensure that when government buys goods, it does so in an open, competitive, transparent and an accountable way. However, there is no such requirement for services, which include everything from consultants to legal advice to snow clearing contracts. A question to the same minister. Why is PEI the only province that has such an opaque process that provides no transparency or accountability to the people whose money is being spent, namely Islanders?
The Honourable Minister of Finance, Deputy Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And Honourable Member, I would like to point out that we're accountable here every day that we're sitting in this House, and anyone who has a question about where the money goes, we're more than happy to answer that, and we'll continue to do that. We want to make sure, again, that Islanders get the best value for their money. Thank you.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Well, that's an interesting answer, because if you don't have a process in place to provide the information that Islanders and other politicians need to know that you're spending the money well, how can we possibly hold you to account? You can't do it. It's quite astonishing to me, it's quite deeply worrying that this level of opacity persists, despite many calls from, this is not the first time we brought this up, Minister, many calls from this caucus to provide a process that is truly open and accountable. To the same minister, why have you ignored our many calls to modernise this process and bring PEI into line with all of the other provinces? And when are you going to finally fix this?
The Honourable Minister of Finance, Deputy Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and Honourable Member. I'll work with my department every day to ensure that we are as open and transparent as we can be. We're providing now a book this thick with where our operating funds are going. We'll continue to do that, Honourable Member. And again, I'll say everything that goes out to RFP, you can see that online, and we'll continue to do that and work, again, to make sure Islanders get the best value for their money.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Again, those are lovely, reassuring words, but the reality is that we're not given that information, Minister. Islanders and other parties present in this House do not have the information on so many of the procurement processes that happen. When we purchase local, the economic multiplier effect means that the money stays circulating here in our community. But unfortunately, we don't have a local procurement strategy here on PEI to support local businesses and to stimulate our economy. Government, of course, is the biggest spender in our province, outlaying millions of dollars in procurement every year. To the same minister, when will we see a local procurement strategy on Prince Edward Island, something that our caucus has been calling for 2 years?
Honourable Minister of Finance, Deputy Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and Honourable Member. We are, I think, the only province now that debates the budget on the floor of the House.
Line by line.
Line by line. Line by line. It is
Line
about the budget, but where the money goes through each department. We will continue to be as open as we can. You get your thick book with all of the expenditures in that, Honourable Member, and we will continue to work with Islanders to make sure they get the best value for their money. Thank you.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it's astonishing and alarming to me that we have a Minister of Finance who doesn't seem to distinguish between the budget process and the procurement process. It's 3 answers where she's come back with a question on the procurement process and referenced the budget process that we use here in the office, entirely different things. One part of the procurement process, Minister, which completely lacks transparency, is in disclosing the details on all of the bids that are submitted for service contracts after a contract is finally awarded. In one instance, and this is not in the budget, Minister, I am aware that a local business submitted a bid that was of at least equal quality and at half the cost of the bid that finally ended up winning the contract. To the same Minister, why don't we disclose this information, and why don't we have an appeals process for losing bidders?
The Honourable Minister of Finance, Deputy Premier.
Honourable Member, there's a criteria for every bid that goes out there, and every department works on that criteria as to who is the best fit for that. RFPs go out. Honourable Member, it's to me, to publish all of the bids would be would affect competition, for one thing, and I would say to you that
Maybe not.
privacy would be an issue, for sure. And I would just say to the honourable member, through each department, there are people who are working on this daily, on the procurement of all goods and services that we have here on PEI, and will continue to do that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.